So, Helena, welcome to the Family Business Voice. It's lovely to have you here today with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramya. It's very good to be here.
I'm always curious to know how people end up in this family business field and what led you to end up like being so curious and so engaged with family businesses.
Well, actually, I was brought up in an entrepreneurial family, and then I've been working as an advisor throughout my career with families and entrepreneurs. So that's also, with my background and with the support of my parents, I've always found family enterprises to be super interesting. And also, you feel as an advisor, you're also part of the family. That's what I like engaging with families.
Today, we are here because you have some very interesting insights to share from the 2021 Family Business Index that's been done by EY. Let's first talk about the index. So, there's indexes aplenty. What's special about this index? Like, since when has it been going on? Tell us more about the impetus behind it.
Yeah. Well, first, I think just in a sentence, explain what our index is. So it's a ranking list of the 500 largest family-controlled businesses globally, and it's based on revenue. And we've been doing it for quite some time now. The index illustrates the importance of the 500 largest family businesses for the global economy. Together, they create more than 7 trillion US dollar in revenue annually, and they employ around 24 million people directly. You just can imagine what that makes in the second level. And I think that's an outstanding contribution.
What makes you believe that it's actually the family ownership and at times even still family management that make these companies have such a lasting positive impact on their economies?
It is the fact that they are family controlled because that makes them, as said, more resilient. They've last over generations. They've been around for a long time, and I think that's so important to the global economy. It's not just the unicorns that we've seen rise in the past decades, but we also in need for this foundation of business.
Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of like the factors exactly that go into that kind of resilience?
I think here is the standard mechanism of how family enterprises deal with crisis, with sometimes less risky behavior and focus on growth and preservation of family wealth. Having said that, other themes that we observed during the pandemic is the also increased interest into succession planning. The pandemic, I think, in a way reminded us all about that we're mortal and that family businesses are not an exception here.
And necessarily so, right? Like, Helena, because if I'm reading this right from the index, it says that the average family business board member is 61 years old, and 80% of businesses on the index do not have family board members under the age of 40. How do you explain that? Has that been complacency at the beginning of this century that we were comfortable maybe in like, having these experienced people helming maybe sort of a leftover of the baby boomer generation that's holding on to these positions? Do you believe that this is now going to dramatically change, right? Like in the aftermath of this pandemic?
Yes, I think that we see as society changes, this also impacts family businesses. And we also see the push to have a more gender diverse or a diverse board structure. And we also see the next generation. We have an amazing opportunity to engage with the next generation through our EY Next Gen program. And there we hear, and we may hear that the next gen is becoming more and more engaged in the family businesses.
I think like the index shows a lot of really remarkable positive impact. So, has anything stood out to you where you thought, like, this is a really important next step for most of these families to take now?
In my experience, family businesses often follow the general business trends and they change and adapt like any other businesses to survive in the markets. And sometimes this may take them a bit more time to put a specific topic on the table, but when they do it, they can then act on it 100% next morning. So because they can act faster and decide faster than many of the public controlled companies. So I think what's important here is to use their agility and flexibility in the business going forward.
A lot of factors are going to influence whether these businesses are, in fact, going to make it for another few decades or another few generations or not. Do you expect there to be a change in ranking?
I do think that we will see changes also linked to their ability to embrace, the digital market. All businesses, being in consumer or in manufacturing or what have you, digital transformation will be at the center. And supply chain, I think, is also other very important factors that will affect businesses going forward, also family businesses. So I do think that we will see, and of course also the tech factor. That's why we see that the Asia Pac companies with a strong focus on new technology that will of course affect the ranking in the coming years.
So a shift there in terms of who's actually in the top 500, but in that case, you're saying also a shift in possibly geographical concentration, because currently, according to the index, we have 16% of these families are German and 24% of these are actually US-based family businesses. So you expect a significant shift also in terms of geographic distribution of these top 500?
I do. I think we will see a shift following the global economy and the global trend. So yeah, I think we'll see that.
It's interesting also the ESG discussion obviously right now gets a lot of attention, right? How high do you rate the quality of ESG reporting right now in these businesses? And do you expect this percentage to increase in this top 500, but maybe also in family businesses in general in the near future? And tell us why.
I think it's a bit difficult to make a general judgment. I don't think that we really have underlying data here. But having said that, the research in the index shows that that 78% of them report their sustainability performance, and they use very sophisticated out of those. But I expect, because that will also be, these are the 500 largest companies, right, in the world. So I expect the percentage to be almost 100 in the coming years.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so that at least a significant increase would be wonderful to see. But really, the reality is that society at large is currently changing at a very rapid pace. And I think what's been I always say, from an anthropological point of view, these last 2 years have been truly fascinating. What we find out about our society, what we find out about its strengths and weaknesses, but it also changes people's outlook on consumption, people's outlook on their own responsibility as a consumer. What do you think are sort of like the biggest shifts? And do you think that family businesses, are they better or less well equipped maybe to deal with this kind of a shifting perception of the consumer?
I do think that they have a competitive advantage, because especially the brands we see in the index, there are consumer brands that they're extremely well established and they've been around there for decades and decades. And that's, I think, the reason for them being so successful and being there on the top list is that they've managed this in the past, and they have that massive experience, built up over generations on how, have the customer in the center. The customer is always right. And here I think they're very, very good at that, on picking up those signals from the market.
What are the lessons that you get from this particular selection of companies on growth?
I rather call them reminders rather than lessons. I think all family businesses have been aware of them for a long time, and the pandemic once again highlighted their importance. So the first reminder is investment in community. We've seen family businesses around the world. They've been joining the battle against COVID-19, and they've changed their businesses to support governments and communities. We also mentioned that some of them manufacture essential medical equipment, and some of them connected with people in a new way, and some of them provided philanthropic support. So that's, investment in communities. Another reminder would be the, as I mentioned, importance of innovation and technology, the importance of digital. And then last but not least important reminder would be to keep people at the center.
Tell us a little bit more about the future of the Family Business Index by EY. So what is the outlook for the index itself? What is it that you're still aiming to do?
will for sure continue with the index, and I think the fact that it really showcases the importance of family businesses in the global economy. And I think what we did this year when we did a cut on ESG, generational shift and diversity, I think that's very interesting. We'll continue to monitor that because that's, I think, is at the center of what's important for family enterprises or family businesses in the future. So that we will continue to monitor and highlight.